This is Arthur Piccolo. These are my comments at the beginning of our historic gathering at Our Lady of Loreto Church on Monday, April 5th, 2010, the 102nd anniversary of the opening of the church. I absolutely feel the spirit that engulfed this very place 102 years ago today. The spirit of thousands of Italian immigrants gathered right here, filling the church and all the streets around it. But the far strongest spirit I feel we all have is about Our Lady of Loreto today, our efforts to prevent its unjustified, even its sinister destruction. The strongest feeling I have of all standing here is about the glorious future of Our Lady of Loreto and the impressive role it will play in Brownsville's and Brooklyn's future. I, for one, am not here to ask, to plead, or to beg Bishop DiMarzio not to destroy this wonderful building. I am here to tell him not to destroy it, that he has no right to destroy our past, our present, or our future. It's our church, Bishop DiMarzio, not your church, and you are not some private developer. You are the Bishop of Brooklyn, and your power is vested in your role of preserving our religion and our communities, not destroying our cherished symbols, and giving this house of worship back to the people of Brownsville, all the people of Brownsville, for another all-important form of worship, building up this community as God's children, whatever our religious beliefs. The people of Brownsville have even more reason to be outraged by your plans. How dare you steal their future from them, this building they have come to love and respect as much as Italian Americans.
So I'd like to introduce Jeff Dunstan. He was the ideal person to speak to about this. Well, he became more energized than most of us. He got more into the restoration and preserving of this than most of us. And in spending time with him, he's just a wonderful guy, and everybody I speak to has good things to say about him, including the diocese. When they reviewed his plan, they couldn't find one thing wrong with it. In fact, the outside consultant that they brought in, who has been developing real estate for many years, turned around to him and said, "This is an excellent plan you have here." So I'd like to introduce Jeff Dunstan. He's the chairman of Northeast Housing Development Company.
One of my primary concerns is, how do we bring communities together around this? And, whether or not there will be a real attention paid to this. Clearly, this church has had a clear role in this community for over 100 years. The immigrant Italian community has played a vital role in this part of Brownsville for, more than 75 years. And it's important to also understand that the African American community also purchased from the Italian American community when the businesses were here. The church itself obviously has gone through transition and has served the many populations of this community. So today, we're here to really talk about how do we preserve this church, how do we preserve its beauty, how do we preserve it for reuse and benefit to the community. We clearly lack community facilities in the Brownsville community, and this is a perfect reuse of an existing building that has architectural significance, that has significance, period, to this community. And our proposal to the diocese over the past almost year has been to say, this is what can be done with this land. And not only that, we can also give 100 units of housing back to the community with a community facility and cultural center, which is critical. The fact that we're now here today having to plead with Bishop DiMarzio about this is somewhat ridiculous. I mean, it should be obvious that this building does have significance. To see folks coming together around this is very important. It says a lot about the fact of not only the interest in why we need to be doing this, but why we need to be saving this church. And so our goal and our hope going forward is that we're going to prevail, that this is going to happen, that we're going to get more members from both communities, all African American, Latino, and Italian, continue to come together and voice their concerns and their opinion about why this building needs to be saved. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce someone who's a very substantial person in the New York preservation area, in addition to being a very substantial person in the New York development area. So we have someone with us now that is kind of a giant in both of those areas, and he has taken on to this cause, and we're very lucky to have him involved. He's been very helpful. Frank Siami.
Thank you, Charles, and I won't be as eloquent as my second cousin, Joe Siami. Thank you, Joe. I am a builder, and I am very interested in preservation. But I also was brought up in East New York on Logan Street. My grandfather was brought up on Jerome Street, 12 blocks from here. He built New York subways. My dad was a union painter, and I have a huge respect for craftsmanship. This building is a great example of Roman Renaissance architecture. It's unique. You don't see many Roman Renaissance buildings, and it was built out of precast concrete, which is another unique technique that they used for this building. It's in good shape. Compared to the buildings that we've restored or have been asked to assess, I look at this building as something that absolutely can be saved. But being an Italian American, thinking about the heritage, of course this is close to my heart, but this is a problem that is widespread. When I was chairman of the Landmarks Conservancy, we wrote the city and explained to them that all denominations are facing this problem. Catholics, Presbyterians, Episcopalians, synagogues are all being threatened. Houses of worship are being threatened. We thought that the city should do something. They said they would, but it has been a busy time for the city. I think we need to use this particular project, this unique building, which not only talks about architecture, but it actually traces the patterns of immigrant travel. It's the very fabric of our culture, these neighborhoods that can be reborn again. And we have a developer who's willing to do that. It's an alternative plan that creates more affordable housing and yet saves this as a community center to once again become the anchor of the neighborhood that it was 102 years ago. And I think that that's very, very important. So I want to thank all of you for being here, for trying to help and save this building, and I'm going to do everything I can to work with you and others to see that this building is saved, restored, and revitalized to become an anchor of what was and will be a great community. Thank you. Thank you.
And the next speaker is a good example of why, as was Jeff Dunstan. Every community needs a spirit, someone who personifies the energy, the quality, the unstoppable, indomitable spirit of a community. And there is no one who does that better in this community than Patricia Deans, who is president of the Brownsville Heritage Center. Ms. Deans.
Good afternoon. As he said, my name is Patricia Deans. I originally grew up in the South, but I came to this community in 1962. And I've lived here ever since. So when you know that you've been a blessing, you have a charge to be a blessing to those who come after you. And I think that's my charge, being in the Brownsville Heritage House. And so for me, this church represents all that's needed, all that the Bible is about. You know, in terms of Jesus was the first homeless man. And when I look around in this community, I see all of these homeless shelters. I see factories that's being converted into homeless shelters. So there's no reason why we should have homeless numbers increasing and not decreasing. All of that says to me that it's a plan, and it's a plan that we need to re-examine, you know, because the universe is one verse. It's I am. I say I am, you say I am. We're talking about the same one. So when are we going to live like we were proposed to live from the very beginning? You know, like the I in Italian is always capital. The I, when you make reference to your person, always capital. You know, it's the simplicity of life that we allow to escape us. And I think that it's now time for us to be the people that God created us to be, and to work together to save this church. Thank you.
Thank you.